At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 300 programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
First, just a few things. Now, one is by Catherine Grace, but since Frida Matthews wasn't able to attend, we're going to read just a little bit of her story from the anthology. So, let us begin. Now, the nice thing about short stories is some of them are very short. Flash fiction is known as flash fiction because it is just in a flash. The last sandcastle. The sandcastle was taking good shape, he thought. Then he heard the whiny, "Dickie, don't make that side so big," from the skinny, pale girl. Rolling his eyes, he made the change. "Ooh, much better. Now put another turret on the other side." Complying, he made the correction with sadness in his heart, knowing that he would miss his sister. So a lot to the story. And now the story, Frida Matthews. To be loved in return, a water's lure story. The faint tang of octopus ink filled the air as my sister Cassie dabbed the boy's name onto her skin. In the half light of the lantern, the shadowy wraiths emerged from the depths. Their claw-like hands grasped the body, tugging it down to their lair. "Murderers!" The voice started small but grew louder as it repeated, screeching like banshees of old. Amongst the scrub bush, a young girl stood, shaking, dress disheveled, her blonde hair tumbling from its pins, and her pretty face red, blotchy, and tear-stained. "You lured him. I saw both of you temptresses draw him from the party. He'd never have left my side if not for your bewitchment. You killed him, you heathen witches. You'll pay for this." And to learn how they're going to pay for it, you need to read the story. It's just a short introduction. Now I'm delighted to introduce Alan Porteous. I don't know if I'm saying that correct. No. I don't know how to say your last name. Nope. You got to go around the back. Otherwise, Judith will yell at me and I'll get in trouble. And I try really hard not to have that happen.
Cut people in, so yeah, good. So, just to get you up to speed on the bit I'm going to read, this is a book about football. Not your normal book about football, but football all the same. Finn Silver had started his own football team, building his own ground on the farmer's field, along Windmill Lane beside the old blue windmill. His trials are over. The team has a name, Beaufort's Thunderdogs. But with the season about to start, Finn has spotted a mysterious visitor hanging around his Windmill Lane pitch. So far, Finn suspects he might have been seeing things, but deep down he knows something isn't quite right. I'm going to now read from I think it's about chapter 3 of the first book. The sun sneaked out from behind a cloud just as Finn returned to the fence at the top of the lane. He tilted his head and closed his eyes, allowing the soft warmth to spread across his face. The heat felt good, and for the first time in what seemed like ages, Finn took a deep breath and felt relaxed. He opened his eyes, looked at the lush green pitch in front of him. The white lines stood out brilliantly, painting the familiar scene. The grass had grown some, but the stripy pattern made by the old lawnmower could be spotted if you looked close enough. And the old man playing keepy-uppy in the centre circle with a brown leather ball almost looked like he belonged there. Finn nearly choked. Bongo drums immediately struck up in his chest. Despite the sickly feeling he had starting in his stomach and was now stealing into his toes, he rested his hand on the fence and watched the old fellow kicking the ball gently into the air, always keeping it under control, never letting it hit the ground. For his age and the tightness of the red tracksuit he was wearing, once again, he seemed remarkably skillful and nimble on his feet. Finn counted 23 kicks of the ball without it dropping. Then on the 24th, the old man launched the ball high into the air above him, watching it carefully as it rose and fell back to earth. Then, just as it hit the ground, he deftly trapped it under his right boot and stood on it as if he was proudly posing for a photograph. He lifted his head and looked directly at Finn. Surprisingly, Finn felt a wave of annoyance course through him. He was suddenly fed up with all the drama. It was hard enough starting a football team without mysterious figures, strange messages and puzzling photographs to worry about. He held the old man's stare for a few minutes longer and then decided he would simply walk over and ask him who he was and what all this was about. Despite his brain deciding this was absolutely the right thing to do, his feet had other ideas and remained firmly planted where they were beside the fence. Pull yourself together, his brain shouted at his feet. His feet, who had always proven to be wiser than his brain, ignored the command and stayed put. The figure in the centre circle waved. Finn, thinking it rude not to, waved back. His heart skipped a beat as the old man then beckoned to him with a slow, deliberate hand motion. Suddenly, and for no good reason, his feet lost the battle and he was on the path, cutting through the grass and heading down to the pitch. Closer and closer he got until he could see a pink balding crown pushing through the old man's short grey hair. Closer still, and he could make out untidy, bushy white eyebrows. Finally, he was close enough to know that the old man had keen blue eyes and a splattering of liver spots across his forehead and down his neck. Finn stopped, his feet touching the painted line of the centre circle. The old man stood in the stitched football, sitting perfectly on the centre spot. They held each other's gaze for what seemed like forever. "Hi," ventured Finn hesitantly. "Where did you learn ball control like that?" The old man smiled. "I used to play a bit," he replied in a soft but rich voice. "In the old days," he added with a bright look in his eyes. "When you played for the Bombs," Finn suggested, and the old man laughed. "Long before anything like that," he replied, still smiling. "But well done for doing your digging, Finn Silver. I had a feeling you'd get to the bottom of things." Finn didn't think he was anywhere near the bottom of things, but he decided now wasn't the time to point that out. "You know my name," said Finn, somewhat stating the obvious. "Of course, I've been paying attention to what you've been doing here for some time now." "This place," the old man looked around, shaking his head in genuine disbelief. And in such a short space of time too. "I think it's going to be quite special here, Finn." "I hope so, sir." "I hope so too. It can't be any other way." The old man's smile faltered slightly. Finn felt a little bolder. "Sir, I don't mean to be rude, but there's something a bit odd going on here and I'm not sure what. I saw you in that photograph and, well, that would make you very old, wouldn't it? And not just my Grandpa Silver old," he added firmly. The old man looked uncomfortable but said nothing. He seemed completely unsure of how to continue the conversation. "Let me see. How do I best explain things?" he eventually said, rubbing his pink forehead, screwing up his eyes and looking slightly pained. "I have a problem." It was Finn's turn to look uncomfortable. "What, like flaky skin? Or go to the doctor, or go to the toilet a lot during the night? Because I know my grandpa has..." No, interrupted the old man, lines appearing on his brow. "Nothing like that." "Oh," nodded Finn. The old man tilted his head slightly, looked at Finn closely and tightened his lips. "Something very important has been stolen from me. A page from a very unique book, and I desperately need you to help me get it back." The old man had evidently decided to cut to the detail. Finn was taken aback. "Why me?" he asked, totally confused. "Because I can't, and this is Well, it's all about you, sort of. All about me. The old man's eyes widened slightly and his cheeks flushed. Well, what I mean is, it affects you, your team, the league, everyone. The very future of football is at stake, Finn Silver, if you don't help me. The old man's voice wavered and he looked agitated and fearful. Oh dear, I'm not explaining this at all well, but things are desperate. And if I don't make things right and recover that page, your team, and everyone else's for that matter, will almost certainly disappear forever. Finn's head was whirling. Nothing he was hearing made any sense at all. Where is this page? Right now, I don't know, but I know where it will be soon. Finn raised an eyebrow but said nothing. The old man was forced to continue. It's getting hidden in the trophy room, which is why it's impossible for me to get it myself. Eh? The trophy room? What is that? It's where the trophies are kept. Seemingly it was the old man's turn to state the obvious. What trophies? Asked Finn. All the trophies, he replied simply. I suppose the trophy room is beside the Hall of Fame, suggested Finn, a little impatiently. Despite asking quite a lot of questions, he didn't feel he was getting many decent answers. Not quite, but almost, I suppose. So you do know about this Hall of Fame at least? Yes, it's where I come from. Finn looked sharply at the old man. Okay, what exactly is the Hall of Fame then? The old man breathed deeply. All in good time, he replied. Finn's brow lowered further. But it was you who painted the shed wall. Yes, I did. A little dramatic maybe, but I didn't want to scare you. I thought I'd gently introduce myself, so to speak. Didn't want to scare me, Finn blustered. I can't sleep. I've had a constant headache, and I've been having shivers for every 10 minutes or so for weeks. I was starting to worry I'd caught some kind of tropical virus. A concerned look appeared on the old man's face. I am very sorry, Finn. It was never my intention to worry you. No, maybe not, Finn mumbled sullenly, but it kind of has. An uncomfortable hush fell over them all again. A soft, warm breeze blew from the woods, bringing with it the pleasant whooshing sound of rushing leaves. Are you dead then? Finn asked, breaking the silence. I don't think so, replied the old man, failing to hide his surprise at the question. It's just that, Finn pressed. The old man held up the palm of his hand. I promise I'll tell you more the next time we meet. Is that a deal? Finn looked at the old man in the red tracksuit. I'll let you know, he eventually conceded. The old man looked at the ground, then lifted his eyes again. Will you at least think about it, he said hopefully. Helping me, that is. I'll think about it, I suppose. The old man smiled. I do really need to go now, he said. Pressing business as always, things don't stop just because of... He faltered slightly but quickly gathered himself together and offered Finn a weak smile. Till the next time, he grinned and turned to go. Without warning, he swung his leg and blasted the brown-patched football towards the trees. One other thing, Finn cried as the old man started following his ball. The old man looked over a bright red shoulder and raised his brow. What's your name? The old man looked puzzled. Do you know, I'm not sure I can properly remember. But you can call me the bookkeeper if you want. The bookkeeper smiled one final knowing smile, lifted his hand above his head in farewell, then scuttled off in the direction of his football in a way only a man well over 100 years old wearing a tight tracksuit and big clumpy boots can. Thank you.
She's also very talented. And so Judith Bowers will be reading a short story, Teacup, which is a compilation that was done by several of the authors here, and actually Judith will tell who wrote the story, and then of course one that she started herself, that she wrote herself for the anthology. So, without further ado, Judith?
Thank you, Michèle.
It's too loud for me, but anyway, hold on. There we go. Yes, this is the Teacup, a compilation by Frida Matthews, Simpson Monroe, Shirley Ryan, and Micah van der Velde. Yes. So they basically came together and wrote it all together. And I'm just going to read a little extract from it. It's called The Teacup. It was the 6th of February 1952, when King George VI died at the age of 56 years. Princess Elizabeth, who was 25 years of age, became queen overnight upon her father's death. It was then that the souvenir trade went into full swing, leading up to the coronation of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II on the 2nd of June 1953. I was born in a factory in Stoke-on-Trent. I was made of the finest bone china, lovingly hand-painted with the smiling face of Her Majesty wearing her crown and then glazed. I was packed into a small box full of straw along with a saucer to protect us before being sent out into the world to an unknown destination. It was a few weeks before we saw daylight again. Then I was carefully lifted out of the box and placed onto a shelf surrounded by other souvenirs. The owner of the shop hung a price tag on my handle, and we waited and wondered if anyone would buy us. I watched as cheap souvenirs around us were purchased by customers, a doll here, a cheap plate there, a small flag with the soon-to-be Queen's face on it. I knew, sitting on my decorated royal saucer, I was class. Maybe that is why my price tag was higher than all the others. Then, on Monday, the 1st day of June, the day before the coronation, and as the shop was about to close for the public holiday to celebrate the crowning of Her Majesty, a small woman came into the shop. She was looking at almost empty shelves around me. I heard her say, "How much for this?" as she looked at my price tag of 2 shillings and 6pence. The shopkeeper looked at her. He knew this was the one chance he had to get me sold. Tomorrow was the coronation and everything would have to be sold off cheap. "Tell you what, you have always been a good customer here. How about 1 and 6pence? I'll give you a shilling off, just to celebrate the occasion." I was carefully packed into a box, along with my saucer friend, and then into a small brown leather shopping bag before leaving the shop. Where were we going? I wondered to myself. And where she went, you'll have to buy the book to find out. Ha ha ha! Because I ain't telling you no more. I know what happens. Anyway, the next one is actually from my little piece that I put in here, and this is actually about a real person. I'm from Weymouth in Dorset. I don't be a Glaswegian, I be a Dorsetshire lass. And we used to have a bag lady in Weymouth called Grace, and when she passed away in 1989, I wrote this little story about her, which I've included, which I've given to Michèle for the anthology. I'm Judith Bowers, by the way. This is Grace by Judith Bowers. Well, a bit of it. There goes Grace, and by the grace of God goes she. Tesco bags, double-bagged and print-faded, crammed with all the things she's prizes, all the bits she's collected, all she's got. A tragic figure, some might say. No family, no home. It's a shame an old woman like that left asleep in shop doorways. You could question a government that lets that happen, or you could question a life that brought her to the place where she stands each day and the place that she sleeps each night. What fills those old bags? What precious items does she covet in ancient polythene? £1 million in used notes? Some people would certainly like to believe that that is the case. Perhaps a romantic tale of a tragic kind, how people like to dwell on others' sorrow. Known locally as a harmless, kindly old soul, this was a nice mythology, more appetising to local folklore than that of a woman down on her luck and lost in a bottle. A brisk sea breeze raced up the esplanade. It caught the litter at her feet and made it dance a merry jig around her grubby sand shoes. Caught up the hem of her shabby blue rainmack, billowing it out, making the skinny old woman look temporarily plump. Once clear blue eyes, now age-yellowed and milky with cataracts, stared out across the beach to the water's edge, where small white crests broke against the shore, carrying in their mists sun-bleached wood and the rubbish from another day of the bucket and spade brigade. Something suddenly glinted in the moonlight and caught Gracie's beach-combing eye. A bottle which nudged something in the deepest part of her memory and brought to mind a youth spent waist-deep in those cold waters. It's hard to imagine, but she once was a baby, born within the walls of the same hospital in which eventually she will probably die. But not just yet. She was not ready to go just yet. It's hard to imagine that this wrinkled remnant of a once fair beauty, with boys at her beck and call, or see her as the bride in white, a princess for a day, elegant and blissful, beguiling and bewitching. But once she was. A smile deepens the wrinkles on her face as she reflects upon the joys of girlhood and the first blushes of young love. He was a sailor, as strong as Popeye and as handsome as Tyrone Power. He was 22 and full of the assurance of youth. He wooed her till he got a kiss, then he wooed her some more, but never more than was decent. And if you want to know what happened next, you have to buy the book. And you'll also find my book over there at the shop counter for Britannia Panopticon, The Magic Lantern, which is my latest book, which was actually released last year, is set in this building. It's a time-travelling adventure of a girl from the 21st century, time travels back through time.
Through this magic lantern. This very one, it's on the cover as designed by Rebecca McCall. And she comes here to 1908, where she meets the boys in the balcony on the night of a very famous Glasgow murder, and then they go off on an adventure with Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Detective John Thompson Trench to solve it. So if you want the magic lantern, it's up there at the back. But don't forget, it's all about this today.
Thank you.
We're going to have additional meetings at 4:30, whoever wants to stay for those. Otherwise, circulate. Make sure you get all of the autographs. That makes it so much more valuable.